Hey guys, like I said, I told you guys that I would make a video answering all of your questions, and here I am making that video. This video might be a little long, because some questions will take a while to thoroughly explain, and keep in mind that these are just my opinions and my point of view, and if there's something that I say that is wrong in your opinion, feel free to message me and we'll discuss it. Alright, so let's go. Question number 1. Satanists are selfish people, right? They only care about themselves and their happiness. It is true that Satanism is very individual-centered. Satanism is very yourself. You focus on yourself. You're not worried as much with other people. You're not worried about making other people happy. You're worried about yourself. However, that does not mean that all Satanists are selfish. I'm personally not selfish. I donate whenever I can, and I help at food shelters when I lived back in Indiana, and I feel that just because I am a Satanist does not mean that I can't be selfless. And even if in LaVeyan Satanism it says you are not to help a person unless they ask for help, when you go to a homeless shelter, they're asking for help. So that's, I don't know, a loophole? I don't know. I don't believe in being selfish. I don't believe in being rude. So although I am a Satanist, I don't have to be selfish. However, there are very selfish Satanists out there, but there are also selfish Buddhists and selfish Christians and selfish people of all types. Question number 2. What do you think of people who only dress goth for their teenage years and then claim it was a phase? I personally do not have a problem with that. If they wanted to dress like a goth, it does not mean that they are goth. And I believe the teenage years are really about finding yourself and finding where you belong and finding out who you truly are. So if a person looked goth just because they wore a lot of black, maybe it's just because they're going through some tough times, or that's how they feel that they should express themselves. And if they say, oh, it was just a phase, then it probably was just a phase for them, and it was probably not who they really were. And that's just how it happens sometimes. Question number 3. What do you think of elitist goths, and why do you think they are like this? I've met elitist goths. I don't appreciate how they don't like every new thing that's added to the Gothic subculture, such as cybergoth. I believe that there's just so many takes on goth that they don't want to acknowledge it, and it's mainly like the first and the second generation of goths, because something that started, they don't want it to change, they don't want it to become different, they want it to stay the same. So I think that's part of, like, if they see younger goths, they feel they don't really know what they're talking about, and it's something, I've been a part of for years. So they're entitled to their opinion. I don't think they have to be rude. And, I've met very rude gothier than thou types, and it's just not appreciated at all. Baby bats need education. They don't need scolded at. And I think they are like this because there are people who do know nothing about the Gothic subculture and will claim to be goth. So I think some of their actions and attitudes are justified and others are not. Question number 4. What do you think about people who mix Gothic styles such as cyber and Victorian? I love it. I think it really adds to how a person really perceives goth and how a person is a goth and how they feel that they are as a goth. Sorry if I repeated a few there. I love when people mix it up. I love it when I see cyber goths wearing corsets. I love it when I see Victorian goths wearing cyberlocks. I think it's really fun to play with, and you shouldn't be restricted to looking just one way. Now, question number 5. Do you consider cybergoths to be true goths? by your definition, as long as they know about the subculture, they know where it started, and they know what they need to know, I'm okay with it. And I do think that cybergoth is a take on goth, and it's still a little bit new, and I think it evolved from like electro goths in Europe. I'm not an expert on cybergoth, so I think if they know, then they are. I'm definitely not one who's like, you have to look like a traditional goth. If the girl doesn't look like Susie Sue, then she's not goth. So I definitely believe that cybergoth is a really fun subgenre of goth. Question number 6. Would you say most of your tastes have been macabre or dark before you discovered goth? Definitely. I do have interests that are not goth, but I definitely have always been drawn more towards darker things. I've always loved Vincent Price. I've loved Vincent Price since I was a little girl. I've loved Tim Burton movies. I've loved gory, cheap, B-rated movies. I've loved a lot of the darker side of life, and that's really what got me into goth to begin with. 7. Opinions on Marilyn Manson. I love Marilyn Manson. I love him. And I don't think it's right for people to say you cannot be a goth and love Marilyn Manson, because that man has taught me so much. That man was how I first got interested in Satanism, actually. You can see my Marilyn Manson wall a little bit over there. I love him. I love the band. I've been a devoted fan for 12 years, and I regret nothing. I think he's beautiful. I don't think his band's music is goth in any way. I think Marilyn Manson, the man, is a little goth, although he's never said, I'm goth. So, it's whatever. I love you, Marilyn Manson. Stay cute, you. Question number 8. Why do you think people always say to goths that they will grow out of it? Because some people do go through a phase, and people don't understand how it can be a lifestyle. So I think it's just ignorance on many people's parts, because goth is so special to so many people out there, and it does really become a part of who you are. And that's why I think people say that they will grow out of it. It's a little bit ridiculous and it's ignorant on people's part, but all you can do is sit them down and tell them what that is and how important it is to you and how you're in it for the long haul. I mean, that's all you can really do, really. Question number 9. What do you think of people who seemingly change all of their tastes overnight to be considered gothic, as opposed to people who become gothic because they liked gothic things in the first place? I think if an individual is changing all their interests overnight to try to fit into something, anything, then it probably means that they're only in it because they want to feel accepted somewhere. And, I've met people who have been there. I think everybody's been there. They've wanted to fit in somewhere. And I think that it's just a phase for them, and I think people are just trying to find themselves. Honestly, I'm sorry, I have a runny nose right now. So I hate allergies. I don't think that they're really gothic if they're changing their interest overnight to try and fit into something that may not necessarily be for them. I think they're just trying to belong somewhere, and I think all of us have been there at some point. So, as opposed to people who like gothic things in the first place, great, I've always liked gothic things, and that is why I am a goth, because I love everything there is to love about goth. So, yeah. Question number 10. Why do you think people have such an intolerance of gothic or alternative subcultures? Because I don't think people understand. And I think some people can be thrown aback by it. And people don't understand goth. They think that, oh, it's just a bunch of depressed, Satan-worshipping teenagers, when many of you can agree that that is not what goth is at all. I think it's just mainly out of ignorance, and I think a lot of intolerance in the world comes from ignorance. As a Satanist, I really experience intolerance, because people don't know what Satanism is, because it's such a broad topic. So it just comes from ignorance. I don't like it, I wish people would be a little bit more open-minded. I wish people would be down to learn about it more, because societal norm says you can't have bright pink hair or piercing because it's not natural, and I don't agree with that. Whatever makes you feel good, do it, because it's not their hair that you're dyeing, it's not their face that you're shoving a needle through. So you just can educate people, and you can just hope that one day they'll understand. Question number 11. Do you define only the post-punk early goth bands as goth music? I think that they are goth. It is goth music, as such as the Damned and Bauhaus and Susie and the Banshees and Alien Sex Fiend and, all those beautiful, beautiful bands. I don't think that's the only type of music a goth can listen to. I don't feel as though only those bands can be constituted as Gothic music, because Gothic music has created so many subgenres of goth music, like Victorian goth music. Many people many goths that I know love Emily Autumn. I love Emily Autumn. Then you get into industrial and EDM, and then you get into Gothic classical, and there's just so many broad ranges of music that have stemmed from Gothic music, or Gothic rock, to be more precise. I don't think that these are the only bands capable of making goth music, though. Number 12. At what age do you think goths become fledglings and can no longer be considered baby bats? I think when an individual really knows what goth is about, they're dedicated for life, they're in it for the long haul, they respect the culture so much, and it is really who they are as a person. I think that's the time when you realize a person is a fledgling and not a baby bat anymore. A baby bat can be a baby bat for a year, they could be it for several years. Everybody learns at their own pace, everybody develops at their own pace. People, sometimes it takes a while for them to discover who they really are, and maybe they'll find out that I like the darker side in life and I do like goth music, but I'm not a goth myself. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And stupid nose. And I think at that moment when you realize this is really who I am, that's when you know you're not a baby bat anymore. It really varies from person to person. You can't tell a person you're still a baby bat because you can't quote every Oscar Wilde writing ever. I don't think it's polite to call other people baby bats. I think it's actually a little bit condescending, because people use it in a very condescending word, but at the same time, I don't think baby bat should be a condescending word. There's nothing wrong with being a baby bat. You're learning. I mean, hell, I'm still considered a baby bat, and I'm okay with that. I'm still learning a lot of things, and I'll probably always learn, but goth is really who I am as a person, and it means a lot to me, and nobody can take that away from me. So, that's all your questions. I hope I answered them. I know this is a dreadfully long video. I warned you guys. If you have any questions, my ask box is open at noobgoth@tumblr.com. And if you have any other questions, I will be free to answer them. Who knows, maybe I'll make another Q&A video. I hope this video helped you guys. I hope this video made you less ignorant of anything you were ignorant of before, especially about the Gothic subculture. And I hope you guys have a very spooky evening, and I will talk to you some other time. So keep it spooky.